dying for the glory of God. She is definitely living that out every single day. I probably would tell the story wrong, but another story that I found very fascinating is the impact the book is having on people with cancer and going through chemo. And a lady in North Carolina got the book and shared it with another lady and shared it with another lady. And somehow or another, and only God can do, on the Aleutian Islands, there is a Eskimo lady that has cancer and is going through treatment. And somehow or another, the book got to her. And she read the book and she ordered 10 of those books. So on those Aleutian Islands, she can share those books with others who are going through cancer treatment on the Aleutian Islands. Go home and Google where the Aleutian Islands are. And you can see how much of a miracle that really is. We start today the book of Ecclesiastes, the gathering, the coming together. Solomon, David's son, king, followed David's footsteps, king of Israel, king of Judah, reigned in Jerusalem, prayed for wisdom, got wisdom, and he gave us the book of Ecclesiastes. And we're going to go through the book of Ecclesiastes, verse by verse, chapter by chapter, the next several weeks, and see what the Lord has in store for us. I'm going to be using the New Living Translation because the New Living Translation is written on a 6th grade level. That's more for me than for you, I'm sure. I usually use the English Standard Version, and it was written on the 11th grade level, and so I use that sometimes. And the reason why I don't use the King James Version is because it's a PhD in Shakespeare, and I ain't got one. So it's really difficult for me. And so we'll be using the New Living Translation the next several Sundays. As we go through the book of Ecclesiastes, if you go through it without a reference point, without an understanding of the end, it is very depressing, very frustrating, very difficult. It looks like there is no hope. It looks like in times that nothing matters in life, that all we do is merely exist and then we die. And of course, we know from Scripture that is not the case. So we need to, before we begin every chapter, we're going to talk about Ecclesiastes 12, verses 13 and 14. And we're going to end with Ecclesiastes 12, verses 13 and 14, because I don't want to leave you harassed and depressed, despondent, but to find that life is more than merely existing. At the end of the matter, verse 13, at the end of the matter, in the New Living Translation, it says, that's the whole story. Here now is my final conclusion. So the end of the matter or my final conclusion. And this is the answer to the ongoing discussion that Solomon has about some of the aspects of life. And he says, fear God, obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. So the answer to the questions of life is fearing God and obeying his commands. He said it's everybody's duty. Fearing God is having respect for God. It's having loyalty for God. It's being devoted to God. It's to be in awe of God. It's to have the highest degree of respect that we have for anything we are to have for God. It means that we are more concerned with pleasing him than pleasing ourselves or anybody else. It means that when it all boils down at the end of the day, what matters most is what we have done for the Lord and how we followed through in being his children. And when we fear God and obey his commands, That's where meaning for life comes. And he says in verse 14, the nitty-gritty of everything, and at the end of the day, something that we need to keep in mind, and we need to keep very, very close to our heart. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. So we must keep this in mind as we go through each chapter and take a look and see what Solomon wrestled with. And I'm sure most of these things, all of us have wrestled with, and probably more factual, we're still wrestling with it. And we're going to wrestle with all these things. So we see in verses 1 and 2 that without God, human achievements, pleasures, pursuits don't satisfy. Says, these are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem. Look in verse 2. Everything is meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What does that mean? It means that in Solomon's perspective, the wisest of all people, he says, everything is meaningless. Complete meaningless. Everything. And so without God, life is empty. And so as we go through each and every one of these things, we begin with the standpoint that everything is meaningless, and that without God in our life, based on what Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 13 and 14 tells us, that life is merely existing without God. But without God, we don't merely exist, we have meaning to life. And it's very clear cut. It's not halfway. It's either or are. You know, when before I was a believer, I had nothing. And by the way, before you were a believer, you had nothing. And then you became a believer, and now you have something that overwhelms the nothing. And as you grow as a believer, the nothing loses grip of your life, and the something begins to take a hold of your life. And you begin to grow further from nothing, meaningless existence, to the something that God provides that is meaning. But we begin with the statement, everything is meaningless. And he says, the teacher says, completely meaningless. So that's where we begin. We have God wanting to give meaning, but we have ourselves in life without meaning. And so that's a problem, isn't it? And so life without God in it is a meaningless existence. And he gives us some of the aspects of it, things that perhaps may ring a bell for you. And every one of these things that he speaks about is an overwhelming lesson from God, that God has a message for us in the meaninglessness of life. Okay? So every time in life you're reminded of one of these meaningless experiences that you have in your life, keep in mind that's God speaking to you. I have something for you. Okay? And so we begin with that first example in verses 3 and 4. What do people get for all their hard work? There you go. Most of us spend more time at work than we might at home, right? If you take away the time we spend in bed, you know, we spend more time at work than we do at home, not in bed. We spend a lot of times at work. Some of y'all spend a good 40 hours. Some of y'all spend a good 50 hours. Some of y'all are just getting started after 50 hours. What do you get for all that hard work? All that hard work under the sun. Solomon speaks about the under the sun thing a lot. He must have really had a problem with the heat. What do people get for all the hard work under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. And so people are out there, Solomon says, working hard, putting all their effort into their work. Day after day, they labor, they toil, they struggle with their work. And then after all their work is done, they look back and they see more work to do, or they see that others have come and have not respected their work. And all of us are going to experience that. Generations come and generations go. You work and work and work, and then generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. Meaningless, he says. He says all of our hard work is meaningless. I got a kick out of the financial office down the road here that says on their sign this week, love your job. And knowing I was going to be talking about this, I went, how many people really love their job? Right? Love you. Now, a money man probably would say, y'all love your job and bring me money so I can invest it and make a little money off you, right? And so I get that part, right? But love your job. Love your job. Here's the deal. Your job, regardless of how much you love it, at the end of time, at the end of your life, and at the end of the work, you're going to look back and you're going to have this message from the Lord. What good was it for? Why, I worked all these years at my job, at my jobs, and as I look back at all my jobs, all I can really say for it is it kept us in food and a roof over our heads. But you know, all those people, all those generations are going to come and they're going to tear up all the work that I've done. They're not going to respect it. They're not going to honor it. They're not going to think that all that we have put into this work, regardless of what kind of work it is, has any value now, any importance now. And they're liable to sell the business. They're liable to change all the products. They're liable to just rearrange everything. And your work will not look anything like the work that you invested all that sweat on. That's what he's saying here. Did you know that just down the road is one of the acreages for the Beggs Ranch? And you probably know that the Beggs Ranch has sold, and pretty soon it's going to be houses, just brick and mortar. Now, George Beggs left England in 1876, and he moved to this part of the world. And he leased some land, and he began a cattle business, literally the Beggs Cattle Ranch. And he began it. And he leased more land and leased more land. He began to buy land and buy land. And in those early years or late years of the 1800s, those early years of the American civilization, you know, he was supplying cow and meat to the cavalry that was coming across the West and the Western migration and all that. And as time went on, he began to buy ranches and buy land. And at a point, they were never the largest in Texas. They were never the largest anywhere else, but they had land all over West Texas. They had land here, and every day, if you live over here in Morningstar or Wash Ranch, you look to the left, that's the Beggs Ranch. You drive by it every day. You drive by it every day. I met George Beggs III. Now, he passed away in 2011. He was really a fun man to talk to, a really good man. You know, was well known in our community, and especially during his younger years, and his kids were raised here and all those kind of things. And that ranch has sold. Now, I don't know what George Beggs III thought about that. I'm sure he had some conversation with his boys about that, and I don't know exactly what the boys thought about things. I understand they're still going to have some of their places out west, but the ranch is sold. Now, I want to talk to the Brit. I'm Brit. I'm an Englishman. So I want to talk to him. We can probably talk the same language, sit down with, toad in the hole and have a good conversation. And I want to know, Mr. Beggs, you worked really hard in building that ranch, didn't you? You put a lot of hard work into it. Yeah. What do you think about it now being houses? What do you think about that? Whew. I wonder what he'd say. I wonder what his perspective would be. I wonder what his understanding would be. That kind of scenario, exactly what Solomon's talking about here. If everything in your life matters because of your work, you're going to be depressed. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to have lots of struggles. If nothing else in life matters more than your life, you're going to find yourself at the end of days being really, really in a difficult spot. Because work by itself is empty and it's meaningless. But now, if you put to the work fearing God and keeping his commandments and being obedient to him and living for him and living in such a way that you know that all that you've done or haven't done or you should have done or you didn't do is going to be judged, and you're going to live your life with that in mind for God, then your work has a whole new meaning, and it's not meaningless. Now, you can do a meaningless job. You can say that your job has no cultural relevance other than making a paycheck. But as you're there, as you relate with people, as you work with people that buy your stuff, whatever your work is, and you are living for the Lord, then your job is no longer meaningless. And there's value to it, and there's importance, and you may see that God has you in what you believe to be a meaningless job for a greater purpose. For a greater purpose. So, if it's only about the work, if it's only about success, if it's only about building wealth, if it's only about recognition, you will be left empty. And generation will come and go, and everything you have worked for may be no more. So that's something to think about. Meaningless, he says. It says there, what do people get from all their hard work under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. And then the next one is in verses 5 through 7. Man, I thought a lot about this one this past week because we got away a little bit. The endless repetitions of life. Look in verse 5. The sun rises and the sun sets, then hurries around to rise again. He really is. He could have wrote some country western songs. The sun rises and the sun sets, then hurries around to rise again. The wind blows south and then turns north. Sometimes here we have that happen the same day, over and over. The endless repetition of the wind blowing from the south and then turning to the north. We had that happen on Saturday. Around and around it goes, blowing in circles. Rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. Rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. That big waterfall at Yellowstone National Park, you know what I thought about when I stood there and watched, what is it? That snapshot is thousands of gallons, that blink of the eye, thousands of gallons. It's the most unbelievable amount of water coming over that rock. It's wide. You know, to me, it was greater even than the Niagara Falls, and I got to see that too. That's a lot of water coming across there. And at night and day, you wake up in the morning, you go, and sure enough, that water's still coming. You know, you go, it's still coming. Whoop, it's still there. I mean, surely it's got to dry up some point, right? No, it never runs out. It just keeps on coming and coming. Rivers run to the sea, and the sea is never full. Then the water returns again to the rivers and flows out again to the sea. That water cycle, condensation, fills up in the air, gets heavy up there, rains, runs through the streams, the creeks, finally into the Mississippi, down to the ocean. And then it just repeats itself, and it goes over and over and over. He's describing here that life is like that. It's an endless battle of repetition. Repetition. The great theologian Paul McCartney understood this. He says, woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head, found my way downstairs and drank a cup. And looking up, I noticed I was late. Found my coat and grabbed my hat. Made the bus in seconds flat. Found my way upstairs and had a smoke. And somebody spoke, and I went into a dream. Paul McCartney is telling us that life is an endless series of repetitions. You do the same old thing every single week. Even if your work or your life is really, has a lot of variety to it, in the varieties, if you take them all together, it's still the same thing. I wake up on Monday morning. I go to the Bible study. I come home. I take a bath. I come to the church. I have staff meetings. I have a staff meeting. And then we do the podcast. And then after that, I go get a bite to eat. And then whatever needs to be done, I get to work on it. I come back Monday night for the Bible study. Every single Monday is just the same. Now, I enjoy those things, but those things by themselves is a beating. It's doing the same thing over and over and over. I wake up on Tuesday morning and I start the sermon preparation really hard, really get into it more than this idea. I look on this, I look at this book, look at this website, do all these things. And then whatever's taking place on Tuesday, I'll take care of that. It may be in a month of Tuesdays, all those things that I'm going to do are different, but they become the same. Over and over and over and over. It's the same cotton picking thing. And you know what? Sunday comes every week. Every week Sunday comes. I enjoy Sunday. Sunday's a great deal for me. I like to do what I'm doing right now. I like this. I like to present spiritual truth. I enjoy it. It floats my boat. But if that's all there is, without meaning, without God's hand in it, man, it's just a beat down. And all of us are like that. Wake up, you school kids, you wake up, you go to school. If you're in the band, you practice. On the football team, you practice. On the tennis team, you practice. If you're in the debate club, you debate. And you do it the same schedule. Monday at 9, you're in this classroom. Monday at 10, you're in this classroom, right? Tuesday, this, and Thursday. And before long, Friday comes. You do this on Friday. Friday's good. No, you got to go to the ball game. You go to the ball game. You get home late. Wake up early on Saturday. And then you got to do all these things. And before you know it, then you got to go to church on Sunday because it comes every week. And then you find yourself just being completely beat down with the endless repetitions of life. Man, you got to have Christ in your heart. You got to have Christ in your life. You got to have God giving you meaning, or it's empty. Because everything we can do, even good things that we can do without God in our life and being that source of truth and spiritual life, life just doesn't have any meaning. And I said, we got away, went to the Cherokee National Holiday in North Carolina, in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And it was good to be there. It's fun. But even a vacation, if this is all I did every day, it would be such a beating, right? I mean, people talk about, are you going to retire one day? I'm going, man, I watched my dad retire. I don't know. I've watched other guys retire. What'd you do? I play golf every day. You want to beat me with a club? Make me play golf every day. What my favorite thing to do is fish. I don't think I can fish every day. I think it'd get old. It's like catching sand bass. You catch one, they're just no fun. It's like catching a goldfish out of a deal. They don't fight or nothing. You just think, well, oh, that's it. Go find the black bass so you can have some fun, because you may not catch him because you got to set the hook, and Lee's not very good at that. Little challenge. But whatever you do over and over and over, it's going to become a beating to you, even a vacation. And so the getting away part for the vacation for me is this: it's doing something different. Not every day do I get to see my wife out there dancing at the powwow. It was awesome. Check that chick out there. Oh, yeah, she's out there doing. Look at her go. I enjoyed the hound out of that. That didn't happen very often. It's a break in the monotony. It's a break in the repetition. It's going to a different place. It's eating a different place. If we did those exact same things in 2 weeks, I'd be done. Solomon, I'm finished. No more. I give up. I give in. No more vacations for me. Endless repetition. Man, it'll wear you out. One of the best things about God is the source of energy to help us defeat endless repetition. Without God, it's just getting up and going to work again. Woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head. Made my way downstairs and had a cup. And looking up, I noticed I was late. Grabbed my coat, got my hat, made the bus in second flat. Went upstairs and had a smoke. You know what the original word was? Went upstairs and had a toke. Because there's no way you can survive a life without God without a toke. That's what I think. But it's smoke. I'm sure Paul McCartney knew it to be smoke. I mean, that's why people smoke marijuana. Y'all know that, right? Because God's not in their life. And man, the endless repetition is unbearable. And someone spoke to him, and he went into a dream. Escapism. Now, when you think, man, I can't stand another day of there's endless repetition, that's God speaking to you. When you hear somebody at work said, I just don't know, I got 5 more years to retire, I don't know if I can make it, what a great opportunity you got to share with them. Let me tell you what Ecclesiastes says. That you are going to really struggle with the endless repetition, but when God is in your life, he gives you what you need to handle the endless repetition, because it's no longer endless repetition, it's living with him in your life. You can make 5 more years if God's in your life. You can do it. You can hang on. Matter of fact, you may keep on working, because God is going to open up doors that he's not opening now because you're not devoted to him. Endless repetition. We all deal with it. We all got. Look in verse 8. Desires are never satisfied. Everything is wearisome beyond description. That's good, isn't it? It just beating me up, beating me down. I can't make heads or tails anymore. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are never content. No matter how much we see, we're not satisfied. And no matter how much we hear, we're not content. There are 2 books written for us. There's a book, the Bible. The Bible introduces us to God. The Bible teaches us what God is like. The Bible gives us all the information we have to live by faith and experience him. The second book is nature. Nature. General revelation. We've got the scriptures and we've got nature to look at. Boy, we take them both for granted. By and large, you took a survey of everybody. We're taking the Bible and we're taking nature for granted. Did you know that in Oahu, Hawaii, there are depressed people? You ever think about that? They have psychiatrists in Hawaii that have full calendars. You know why? Because people in Hawaii are depressed. How many? I don't know, but enough to keep the office going. You go home and you Google it. You look at psychiatrists, counselors in Honolulu, Hawaii. How many? Well, there's a bunch. There's a list of them. How in the world can anyone be depressed in Hawaii? How can you be depressed? Walk outside, knucklehead. Go down to that beach. Have a look at that water. That's what we Texans do. If we ever get to go to Hawaii, we go, that's the most fantastic thing there is. If you're going to be depressed as a Texan and you go to Hawaii and that depression just leaves you. If you're there for a week, you see Hawaii. It's unbelievable. The water's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's spectacular. It's unbelievable. Did you know that in Sipi Falls, Uganda, there are people who are miserable? For the life of me, I don't understand that. I've been to Sipi Falls. You stay there at Sipi Falls, and it's the Garden of Eden. There's every kind of flower growing. There's every kind of vegetation. It's all green year long, and there's this huge waterfall. And the water just coming over the top of something up there. There's a big lake up there or something, and that water just coming out, and it goes and it crashes the ground, and you sit there on this bench, and you just watch it all day, and you think, this is the most unbelievable thing there is. But there are people who are so discouraged with life that see that every single day. Solomon says, our needs are unmet because of life being meaningless, that you see things and you're never satisfied, right? For a few days it works, but I guess that if you lived in Hawaii, you begin to take for granted. If you lived at Sipi Falls, I guess you begin to take that for granted. Life is meaningless. What you see, what your desires are never satisfied. And what you hear, with all the technology we have today, you can hear the Eagles every single day. I do. I listen to the Eagles every single day. I got to get my fix. I got to, for the long run, I got to hear it. I gotta have, are you running down the road trying to loosen my load? Got 7 women on my mind. 4 don't want to stone me, 3 don't want to throw me. 1 says she's a friend of mine. I got to take it easy. Every single day. I go to Hotel California every single day. Every single day. The greatest song ever written. The greatest song. All alone at the end of the evening with a bright. Take it to the limit. And I'll listen to it. And if someone will call me right during that, when I'm listening to it, I'll just hang up, because I got to hear the final ooh-wee-oohs at the end. And let's go. It's awesome. It's great. It's the best. It is the best music that's ever been done right here in good old USA. In the 1970s, those of us who became teenagers in the 70s and lived it up, such irresponsibility. Man, it was awesome. And I still listen to the Eagles. I love the Eagles. I've been to an Eagles concert 3 times, and I'll go 4 if any of y'all. I ain't paying $250 for a ticket, but if you will, I'll go and enjoy it. The Eagles. I mean, you can hear the Eagles and not be content. That's true, isn't it? That is true. I enjoy the Eagles. It is great, but honestly, it hadn't been enough to really deal with real sorrow in my life. It wasn't enough. I mean, I can be depressed and listen to Take It to the Limit, and I'm still depressed. If lost a loved one, just left a funeral, discouraged, despondent, bewildered, or whatever it might be. Doesn't take the place of God. What you see doesn't take the place of God, no matter if it's in Hawaii or Sipi Falls. What you hear doesn't take the place of God, no matter how great it is, as the Eagles are. Don Henley, God bless you. I don't think you're saved, but I'm hoping we get to hear your jams in heaven. I think Jesus would say, let's bring Don up for a few numbers, can we? That's probably not good theology. And as quick as we can, not to run out of time, look at verses 9 and 10. History merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. Sometimes people say, here's something new, but actually it's old. Nothing is ever truly new. We're living in the age of new, but nothing really is truly new. Did you know that cars are better now than they've ever been? Did you know that? You say, no, they're not better, Bob Gosh. No, I remember in a 1958 Chevrolet driving to Alabama with my dad, and we had an alternator in the trunk. We had a water pump in the trunk. We had a starter in the trunk. We had a thermostat in the trunk because you change your thermostats every Sunday afternoon in those cars. Y'all know that? In the summertime, that heat would get stuck on, and I've got to change the thermostat again. Even I can change the thermostat on them. Today, I don't even know where the thermostat's at. I don't even know if they have one. But you don't see cars all lined up the highway like you used to back in the day, in the olden days, in the 1900s. These cars, the only thing you see on the side of the road now is Fords, maybe, or something like that, or, sometimes those fancy German cars. Now, don't ever buy an English car like those fancy Pathfinders or what they're called. Oh, them English can't make a car or save their lives. But anyway, aside the point. Oh, you have one. I'm sorry. God help. Just right there said, don't talk about the British cars. There is nothing new under the sun. What he's referring to here is all the changes in life happen, and guess what? Man is still controlled by sin, pride, and mortality. Man's still controlled by it. We get newer stuff, better stuff, advancement. The Bible tells us at the end times there would be an advance of knowledge in the world, and definitely we're going through that today. But the world's not better. The world's not better. I'm not going to say it's worse, but boy, how do you measure that? And there's nothing new under the sun. What a struggle, what a beatdown that is. Nothing new, nothing new, nothing new. People remain broken. People remained in their sin without God, in pride and mortality, and beat up with it. 1,800 years ago, they were the same way. 2,000 years ago, same way. And then verse 11, we don't remember what happened in the past, and in future generations, no one will remember what we are doing now. People are easily forgotten in our world. Now, he says that because obviously he lives in that world. I mean, if Solomon was Solomon now, Donald Trump would go see him because Donald would love him. He would tell me what you're doing here. You know how he says those things. I want a little piece of that. All the famous people go see him. All the movie stars go see him because of what he knows, a knowledge seeker. And Solomon wanted to be known. Solomon wanted to be somebody. Solomon wanted to be the best. He wanted to be the greatest king that ever lived. He wanted everybody to adore him. And look what Solomon found out. He found out that when you die, people are going to forget about you very, very quickly. It may not even be a month, and people are going to forget about you. That's what Solomon says there. I mean, for instance, who's the richest man in the world today? Elon Musk. Yeah. He got a lot of buck, doesn't he? Whew. He don't even know how much money he's got. You know who the richest man in the world was 100 years ago? John Rockefeller. So, do you know who the richest man in the world was 200 years ago? Anybody got a wild guess? Phyllis Diller? Did you say Phyllis Diller? No, not Phyllis. She lived 200 years ago. Anybody know? Mayan Rothschild, 200 years ago, was the richest man in the world, made his fortune through banking. John Rockefeller made it through oil. And Elon, I don't know what all he does. He's got a lot of money. An agnostic, a Baptist, and a Jew are the three richest people of the last 200 years. Agnostic, Elon Rockefeller was a Baptist and Rothschild was a Jew. But you knew that by Rothschild. There's a little candy, a little chocolate candy called a Rothschild. You ever seen that? Pretty good. I don't know if it's about him or not. You ever thought about your life, how long they'll remember you? Seriously, think about it a little bit. Acquaintances, a week, maybe. A close friend, a month, maybe. Did I go to their funeral? Lee, you did their funeral. Oh, gosh, it's getting bad. Where was that funeral at? Was it hot or cold? That's sometimes how I remember things now. Was I sweating in that suit or not? Yeah, you were sweating. It was coming off your hands pretty good. All right, I figure I've got 2 Sundays of remembrance coming. When I die, you may or may not come to my funeral. It depends on what day of the week it is. It depends on the weather. It depends on what your job's doing. It depends on whether or not you've been offered to go eat somewhere. And you might come to my funeral. The first Sunday you come back to church after that, you're going to go, you know, I kind of expected Lee to be there, but he wasn't there. But it's all right, wasn't it? Yeah, it's all right. We'll miss old Lee. The second Sunday you come back, you're going to go, yeah, it's different without Lee. Not sure it's not better, but it's different. And the third week comes around, and you know what the number one thing on your mind is? What's for lunch? And old Lee has never even been consideration, a conversation. Now you think, well, you're just being demeaning to yourself. No, I'm being real to you. If I live for being recommended, I'm going to be sorely disappointed when I go to heaven and watch y'all's church services. And I can look into your mind. If you live to be remembered, you're going to be depressed. If you live to be remembered, you are going to live a failure. Did you know that? I mean, none of us in here are going to make history probably for large numbers of people to remember us. Matter of fact, outside of our immediate family, most people are not going to remember us. So don't live for other people to remember you. Don't have that striving for that. It's empty. Only what's done for the Lord Jesus will ever fully matter. And so if you're living your life apart from what God wants for you, that's a mistake. Solomon says you're really messing up. You're really messing up. And he says here in 12 through 18, we'll finish with this. The teacher was king of Israel, and I lived in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to search for understanding and to explore by wisdom everything being done under heaven. I soon discovered that God has dealt a tragic existence to the human race. I observed everything going on under the sun. There he is again. And really, it is all meaningless. Like chasing the wind. A good exercise for your kids today. Tell them to go chase the wind. Find out where it started at. Watch the road. What is wrong cannot be made right. What is missing cannot be recovered. What is crooked cannot be made straight. That's what he sees. You're always going to have corrupt politicians. You're always going to have faulty politicians. You're always going to have school boards that are messed up. You're always going to have the owner of your football team that can't make a good decision. You're always going to have that. You're always going to be disappointed on a Saturday or Sunday. You may not be this week or next week, but it's coming. It's coming. You may have a big day yesterday, but it's coming. It's just the way it is. What is wrong cannot be made right. What is missing cannot be recovered. I said to myself, look, I am wiser than any of the kings who ruled in Jerusalem before me. I have made greater wisdom and knowledge than any of them. So I set to learn everything from wisdom to madness and folly. But I learned firsthand that pursuing all this is like chasing the wind. The greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. That'll set it well, won't it? It'll take a while to let that sink in. The greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. The more I understood, the more sorrow I experienced. To increase knowledge only increases sorrow. So those boys at MIT with that PhD without God are in line to be the most miserable people that's ever lived. They got lots of wisdom, lots of smarts, more smarts than me. But without God, I got the upper hand. Because not only do I not understand, I don't want to understand. And I know that what I have found, the something that I have found in God is far better than the nothing that's in this world. So, at the end of the matter, in final conclusion, fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. Life only has meaning when God is in it. May your will be done in our lives, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Ushers, please come forward.